Today, I want to take you through 2 commonly used exercises to look at the opportunity for more equal distribution of load through the lower body, as well as find more glutes. Now, when it comes to a hip hinge, if the goal is proximal hamstrings and glutes, we want to focus on the knees staying over midfoot throughout the movement, both as we lower down and as we come back up. Where people might avoid this movement is they might instead move more distally, letting their knees shift back behind their midfoot as they lower down, or they can maybe have the knees centered over midfoot as they go down, but then as they come up, they get knee extension before hip extension. Another way that people might avoid getting more of that length in the glutes and proximal hamstrings is as they go down, they end up rounding in their back like this, loading more of their paraspinals, both as they lengthen, as well as that is then going to be more of the place that they're going to then lift back up from. One last way that people have the tendency to end up lengthening more from their hamstrings than their glutes is by initiating their hinge by popping forwards like this. So you can see how that creates an excessive curve in my lumbar spine here, which is going to lengthen more of my proximal hamstrings, where instead I want to focus on maintaining this nice stack of my rib cage over my pelvis as I sit back into my sit bones, feeling them widen, and then my pelvis is going to lift up and over my femur to get me down further. That's going to help set me up to use glutes and hamstrings to lift back up rather than lifting up with my back or having those knees go back first. If when I go to sit back into my hips, I don't let my pelvis lift up and over my femurs, then I'm no longer going to maintain this pure horizontal movement in my hips and instead drop down vertically, turning it into a little bit more of a squat that's going to load my quads. Alternately, people might try to sit back and run out of space, and then they'll round their back instead, loading more of their paraspinals with their quads versus their glutes and their hamstrings. Lastly, people maybe would sit back and then to help them not fall over backwards, pop their toes up or flare their ribs, again kind of overloading their anterior chain and their paraspinals instead of keeping it locked in with their abs and glutes and hamstrings. So in the end, we want those knees to stay over midfoot, hips to sit back, sit bones to widen, pelvis to lift up and over the femur, and then we're driving the ground away to come back up. So those knees are staying over the midfoot throughout the movement, and I'm feeling the length in my glutes and proximal hamstrings, and then thinking about picking up the weight because I am pushing the ground away for ultimate glutes and hamstrings. In a split squat, if you go to shift your weight forward and shift your weight back, this is going to drive a lot of the load through your quad and through your knee without your glutes. This isn't a bad thing because it can be really great for quad strength, tendon health, and promoting foot pronation mechanics. However, where it goes wrong is when people lose the 3 points of contact in their feet and aren't able to keep their heel down as they go to shift that knee forward. And then when they come back out of it, they don't keep the base of their big toe and pinky toe down. It can also go wrong if people already tend to overload their quads and never preference using their glutes. So it would be an optimal situation for at this point in time, let's invite more glutes into the picture versus continuing to overload the quads and the knees. Another place that people switch things up when they go to do their split squats is they never let their knee come forward because they were told it was bad for knee health. This shifts a lot of your weight back onto the back leg, which can create a lot more tension through the front side of that back leg, kind of holding you up, and will actually end up being more quad loaded than glute loaded. It also limits the chance to work on foot mechanics as we go down into the split squat and back up. So instead, try exploring maintaining a slight hip hinge throughout the movement to open up the back of your hips, help you sit back into that hip and heel, and then lower straight down and back up while maintaining equal contact between your front foot heel, base of big toe, and pinky toe. You can see that my knee is allowed to bend and straighten, but more of the movement is dictated because I'm lowering straight down into my hips, loading that foot equally, and then pushing out of the ground equally to come back up. Now, it's not that any of these movements are bad, but the question is, where are you looking to drive the movement from? For individuals who need more spinal flexion for improved core engagement, or those who want to improve flexion tolerance through their spine, maybe you drive more movement from their spine. For individuals who need more quad and patellar tendon loading or ankle dorsiflexion range, maybe you drive more movement from their knees. You just want to make sure that you adjust the load according to their tissue tolerance at that point in time. Really, there's a lot that can be broken down in these exercise variations depending on the goal, but that's a video for a different day. In the end, it's about diversifying movement patterns for a balanced distribution of load across tissues and movement. Today, we focused on finding more glutes and proximal hamstrings with more movement occurring in the pelvis. I find more often than not when it comes to a foundational hinge or lunging pattern, people often move too much from their lumbar spine or knees, working around using their hips. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. If you have more questions, you can also leave a comment or check out some of these other helpful videos that we have relative to this topic. Then, if you're a movement professional who wants even more, make sure to check out our continuing education offerings that we have listed below in the description, and I'll see you in the next video.